The reason why we get into so much trouble and why our lives are such a mess is because we don't know who we really are. And I've talked about it in other videos, and I've mentioned like we've forgotten that we're human beings, Homo sapiens, with our bodies and all these things. And I've mentioned that we've forgotten, yes, our spiritual side or whatever. But here, crucially, the fact is that we don't even know who we are as just regular Joes, like just human beings. We think we do, because like our conscious self, our day-to-day self is used to watching YouTube videos or movies or driving to, I don't know, driving in the car and going to such and such restaurant, whatever, like your habits. We take our habits for knowledge of ourselves, but habits are just like a form of self-hypnosis, and some of it is very useful, like developing good habits is crucial if you want to do anything and attain anything in your life. But many times, the habits we've developed are just like coping mechanisms, like survival mechanisms, and they have led us to become a creature which is not us, which is like a deformed caricature of who we truly aspire to be, essentially. And very often we've forgotten that very aspiration, or we think we have. But there's a part of us that does remember, and that part of us desperately wants us to be our real self, our true self, or get back in alignment with those things which truly matter to us and which are our actual gifts that we can bring to the world at the same time. So, and that includes like just the joyful things we experience, our hobbies, and all these things. It goes in both ways. Like having an experience, a pleasurable experience, which is often frowned upon. Well, it's not always a bad thing. Enjoying good things, or the good things in life, are part of life. They're not there for no reason. And so anyway, so there's the point here is that there's a reason why you like the things you do, and there's a reason why you're attracted to certain things. Like for instance, for me, I like science fiction movies, and I like philosophy and reading and things like that. So in my case, I tried many different ways, and I also play music, which is a big thing. So in my ways, I tried various ways of finding my way in the world, and we're told, you should get a job and all these things. And the problem is what we're not told, and we're not, we're kind of told that here is this mold or this box, and within the very strict confines of this box, you have free reign to do anything you want in the box, and everything that comes out of that, we chop it off. you know like for instance, like let's take music for instance. Like I have the urge to play music. It's something important in me. So, but in the culture, for instance, when I was growing up, rock stars were big, like Motley Crue and all these guys, right? So I have something inside me which is telling me, you should really do music because you enjoy it a lot, and the way you feel when you play it is very special. It's a very like deeply intense, almost spiritual experience. It's a very pleasurable experience, very deep and powerful. But the two messages in society, at least at that time, were that either there was no way at all to become a musician, like you should become a doctor instead or a lawyer, or you should follow your dreams, but the model was still a certain cultural concept of the musician. I need to become a rock star or a concert pianist or something like that. So I was looking for an exterior model which would be like a which would kind of best correspond to what my inner intuition was. Yes. And for that reason, I went a certain way, which did not bring me closer to making more music, and it certainly didn't make me bring me closer to making any money, right? So the point here is that there is, we do have callings, and we do have like deep, we do have things that we have to do, and it is, I think, our responsibility to do them. Like, you know, it's part of what we have to give back to life in return for the gift of life itself, essentially. But my conscious self, when it's looking for outside, you know, confirmation or ways of making a living, of becoming a musician, my conscious self doesn't have, you know, really the capacity or the tools to figure out what the best way is, because very often it's just using concepts from the outside and trying to think it through, and, you know, that whole so-called rational approach. And the problem, once again, is that, okay, this is, we think of this as, okay, this is me thinking about my options and trying to rationally figure out what my, you know, the road I should be taking in my life. But this conscious self, which is thinking about these things, is not conscious. It is self-hypnotized. It is socially hypnotized and self-hypnotized by, you know, habitual thoughts and habitual feelings, and this kind of loop of our habits, our daily life, which includes, you know, just, you know, having the same, you know, we have the same feelings, and those feelings bring certain, you know, mental images, and these create some emotions and all that. You know, it's like a circle, and it keeps coming back, and we think we're making choices in our day-to-day life, but actually we're just having habitual responses to these, you know, these reflexes. So essentially we get in trouble that way because we waste, you know, half our life, you know, like thinking we're running on the road of our lives. We're just spinning around like hamsters. But there is still this deep part of you, which is like, if you like, the true self. And there is a lot of, you know, we often hear like in spiritual circles that, yeah, I said circus. It's a little bit of that. But like in spiritual circles, or philosophical sometimes, circles, the idea is that there is no real self. It comes off as very wise and very deep to say that there is no real self. And it's really a mistake, I think, to focus on that. Because while it is definitely true from a certain point of view, there's a big difference between you know, saying that before you've experienced it as a concept and coming to your own conclusion that there is no self through personal experience. It is not the same thing, because the first one, which when you're just repeating like the common wisdom or so forth, well, it's still self-hypnosis or collective hypnosis. It's just like repeating an idea and you like how it makes you feel. So there's still these words and this emotion and you like the sensation, but there's no, like, what value does that have? How different is that from, you know, the way potato chips make you feel or Hostess cookies or whatever? How different is that really? Like from the mouse, you know, those experiences where they feed mice cocaine, right? And they just push the button and more cocaine comes out. How, you know, it's the same thing. You're getting a pleasurable sensation, stimuli. So the fact is that maybe there is a real self and maybe there isn't a real self, but there is something that is very much, to all intents and purposes, your real self. And the idea that at the deepest, most elevated, spiritual level, it doesn't really exist because nothing exists. Well, yeah, like in Kabbalism, you have that, and it's very wise and very profound, but it's like mixing the quantic level with day-to-day level, which many New Age people do, and they're different orders of reality. You can't, there is still, even if quantum physics is truer in a deeper level than Newtonian physics, if you drop a glass, it will still fall on the floor and it will still break, because of gravity. It doesn't matter if you try the slit experience, the slit experience, and is the glass breaking if I watch it, or is it? Is it like if the tree falls in the forest and no one hears it? Is it still falling? Well, yes, it did fall. Okay, so spoilers. But the short, the idea here is that that there is something like your real self, and that this real self matters because you feel unhappy when you don't follow it. Okay, and it's tricky here because a lot of our self-hypnosis makes us feel good. Yes, that's why we keep it. Even the miserable experiences we sometimes have, habitually, we're used to. Well, even those terrible experiences bring us a sense of comfort because they're habitual. Yes, so it's difficult to differentiate between the good sensations which bring you closer to your real self and those that keep you away from your real self. And a big part of the job is kind of learning to internally differentiate between the two. But crucially, the thing here is that you can tell what is closer to your real self, to your deeper self, by looking at your interests and your intuitions. And often you find that there is a pattern there which you've been missing because you've been self-hypnotized. Like for instance, for me, my way of finding my way in the world implied, okay, making YouTube movies about science fiction films, and it feels kind of counterintuitive and trivial, but that brought me a lot of the knowledge and experience which allows me, for instance, to do these videos here, but also it's just part of what I do. It is part of the expression of my real self. And why is that? I don't know. But it just is. And I noticed that there was a pattern between, the different topics that interested me, and there was a way to include all of that. And I had done many years as a consultant in web building and stuff like that, building websites and all these things. And that played into it because it gave me knowledge on how to create these websites, and all these experiences ended up contributing to bringing me to this point here in history where I can do this with you right now. And this has been observed by Schopenhauer and many people. When you look at your life, there is actually a pattern, and that brings you to who you're supposed to be, ideally. And what generates this pattern? Well, to all intents and purposes, and for all practical, intent, as far as we're concerned, well, it's essentially your deeper self. Whether you call it that or not, whether you believe in it ultimately or not, or whether you think it's too metaphysical, it doesn't really matter. Even if it's just a metaphor for something that we don't know, the fact is you have intuitions, and those are what you need to follow. And there are patterns in your life, and these patterns are part of that. Okay, they're telling you how to realign yourself with the best version of yourself, which is the version which will bring you, which is most likely to bring you the most contentment and happiness, and also the version of you which will be the most of service to the whole of humanity. And we definitely need all the service and help we can get right now. So if you'd like any help for that, with that, that's basically what I do. Like my coaching service is helping you, find your way back to your truest self, and it's so drop me a line and we'll talk about it if you're curious. But essentially, I've said it before and I will say it again. There is nothing more important right now than finding the best version of yourself according to you, and expressing that right now. And it's scary and whatever, but that is the way.